Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode will be continuing on the Kabbalah talk that me and Frauda Jin the Ninja we're doing. We started off already with Kether and Chokma, and we will be continuing today with Binah and Daath, and we will be adding somebody else to the show. Hopefully, even continuing the series with us. We got Matt with us. Before we get to Matt, Jin, let everybody know, just in case they don't know who you are already, where they can find all your amazing work.
Sure. Well, thank you, boss. Thank you, Mr. 93. And then, of course, I'm with Matt. So I'm so excited because Matt is a content creator and also co-host with me in the Gray Lodge. And he also runs the Gray Lodge YouTube channel. And so he's been an incredible person to get to know. And I'm really lucky. So I just want to say that, first of all. But if people want to follow me, they can actually listen to Matt and I on the latest episode of Threshold Saints, episode 65, which is Love and K-pop, which is about Matt's idea, which is pop Kabbalah. So using anime, video games, and pop culture, just generally music, as a kind of hermeneutic to understand Kabbalah. So this is also something that I do on my show. I call it something a little different, but I told Matt that I was stealing pop Kabbalah, so I will. And so we also have a Gray Lodge space tonight, a date of record. It's Friday, August 8th. And so if you're interested in hearing Matt and I and Solar, Monty, The Branch, Joseph Reed, and Mike, if you're interested in hearing the 7 of us discourse about Kabbalah, about metapolitics, about meta magic, then that is the place for you. So come follow us both on Twitter and you'll see the spaces. And thank you guys so much.
No, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it, Jim. And first time on the show, and we will have to get him on probably just separately to kick it with us and talk some shit. But we got Matt. So Matt, how do you say your last name again? Mora? I don't want to fuck it up. I probably already did, but
yeah, you can say Mora. In Portuguese, it would be Moura, but pretty much the same thing.
And you're over in Italy right now, right?
Yes. Speaking from the boot.
That is awesome. Top of it. I'm hoping to be going there eventually soon myself.
It is cool.
That is great stuff. Nice. Good for you. Please let everybody know what your deal is, what your thing is, where they can find you, get a little introduction. Don't worry about spending too much time.
First of all, thanks a lot, Nick, for calling, and Jin as well for the bridge. So very happy to be here. Saw some shows before and very cool stuff. So I'm at Mora, talk about Kabbalah, astrology, tarot, numerology, all the stuff related. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, always at mattmora19. And there's also my website, Kabbalah.com. It's written a little bit differently, but we're probably going to show here afterwards. And talk about a bunch of crazy stuff, but that's what I like. So if you like that as well, make sure to follow me there.
Awesome. And obviously since you're on here, you're big into the Kabbalah, I would assume, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was initiated in, and the one that is like the foundation for all the other systems. So when I talk about astrology, I'm really talking about astrology with the Kabbalah lens, or tarot.
Yes. I would have to say that's probably maybe Jin could even verify more than I could, because he probably sees how I look at it. And I'm just used to looking at it like this and don't even realize it. I think probably the same thing with me. I think I tend to just always look at something how it fits on the Kabbalah or the Hermetic Kabbalah. I don't think I can. To me, it just makes the most sense to do it like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same.
How long? How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, the face doesn't make it clear, but I'm 23 right now.
No, holy shit! I did think you were.
Seems younger sometimes.
Yeah, he's our baby brother in the lodge. I always feel like responsibility. I can't ever, say anything too wild or crazy.
So you just
Gen X TikTok generation.
I don't know if he was ready yet. He's not ready yet to come on deal with me. Fuck.
It's so good. It's just this character, Matt is great, but the show is probably some.
So what were you, like 12 when you got into this shit?
So it's actually I'm in Italy right now, but I'm from Brazil. So in Brazil, we have a lot of stuff going on.
Oh,
like,
yo, that
spiritually.
place is fucking loaded with shit.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say my family helped a lot in the sense of letting me know this kind of stuff. So I was skeptic at first, not about Kabbalah necessarily, but like spirituality in general, right? But my family kind of made it easier for me to dabble along. I'll say 15 years when I started actually studying. Like, okay, let me try and see this without this skepticism. And I got initiated, I think, 3 years ago in this Kabbalah system that I use. So before I was studying by myself, but then I got a proper master and so on and so on. And then it's again a game changer, really. So I would say like 3 years initiated practicing this system that I'm using, but it's studying since 15 years old. So
Sure.
8 years now. Yeah, 8-9 years.
And you said, I guess, like, I mean, was this like, I guess, family or friends were kind of like, were into this already, and that's where you were kind of influenced by it? Or did you find it like yourself?
Yeah, so my family was very big into like spiritualism spiritism in Brazil, which is big there. So there's like very many different branches and so on, or other things that are kind of related, there, because in Brazil again there's a lot of mixture. There's like Japanese stuff with like African stuff with native stuff with like Christian stuff. It's like everything mixed. So I would say they gave me some kind of way to start, because I would hear the stories. So then I would be curious, well, what the fuck are they talking about? Some past life or some person that already died, but somehow they're interacting with them. Like, what the fuck is going on? But I would always be skeptical at first. I was like, no, what are you talking about? Because I wouldn't have the experiences. But yeah, at least being in Brazil gave me a lot of possibilities to search for this. Like it's very, people talk about it. It's kind of common. Like even people which are like very strict, Catholic or Christian, they will talk about it. So you'll hear about it. It's not going to be very foreign. I feel like in Italy, or I'd say Europe in general, now since I came, it's like very different. People are more used to the traditional things, at least the ones that I interacted with. I don't know, like maybe I'm not in the correct groups, but it feels like it's harder to talk about these things, or they are coming up to some ideas which we are talking about in Brazil like for so long already. So the environment definitely helped.
Nice. Yeah, I think Brazil. Jeez, honestly, I think if anybody wants to start a cult, just go to Brazil.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely make it there. If you got the money to go over to Brazil, you got it, man.
It's a double-edged sword, because there's a lot of serious people there and doing like good work and so on, but
there's a lot of shills.
then like I call them schizoterrorism. Like there's a lot of schizoterrorism people.
Have you real quick, and then we'll get into the actual topic. Jin's like, when we're going to talk Kabbalah. If you don't mind, Matt, have you ever heard of the Valley of the Dawn? It's a cult out in Brazil.
Let me see with the
maybe Valley of the Dawn. There is like a name for it. It's scary.
Yeah, okay, I saw it with the Portuguese name. Yeah, Vale do Amanhecer.
They're in Brazil.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff. There was a guy
for the last 3 years. Maybe we'll
there was a guy. I think like in English would be John of God or something like that. Like he used to Oprah went there, whatever, and then the guy. Yeah,
anybody wants to
there's
start
a bunch of weird stuff. Yeah,
you can make it.
It is kind of sketchy. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not being shady, but there is something funny about this. Is that a lot of guests that you've had on this show, Nick,
probably have been there.
Are modern magicians. They're really into fucking Kimbanda. This is something Matt and I have talked about like very extensively for like a year almost. Is like this interest in like modern Kimbanda and what it means for modern magic in general, and like why in particular Kimbanda. I just think it's interesting. And then they'll say, "Oh, I'm a shaman." Oh, okay, you're a shaman, but you're also practicing Kimbanda, so you're not quite a shaman.
I don't even. What is that? I don't
like left hand. It's like left hand path. Usually mixtured with like African spiritual stuff, but also like native Latin American, and like they always mix some stuff. But it's very like left-handed Kimbanda.
The reason I wanted to cover that cult, and then I promise we'll get into the Kabbalah. They're another one's thinking like aliens are coming, usual, and so like those always just assume like there's got to be a scam artist somewhere, and or an actual real occultist somewhere that's duping people. And like I was going through like all these sites and just looking at their pictures and shit, you know, and like starting to collect stuff because I was like, yeah, I think at this point I'll cover them. You know, again, 3 years ago, still have the folder, haven't covered them, but was looking at their shit, and like I think National Geographic even did something on them. So like these had good quality pictures, and there was one that I was like, it was like showing like it's some Egyptian setup, and like in the middle of it was like a cut open, you could walk in. And then there's like this drape that's hanging from the ceiling, and it looks like this like circular cushion seat in the middle. But it just looks like that's kind of like in the background, just hanging out there. I don't know what it was. It was probably stoned or some shit. And I was like looking at the picture, and I was like, yo, it looks like there's somebody in there. And I zoomed that thing open, and I'm like, yo, there's a motherfucker in there with the Astrum Argentum robe on. I was like, oh, here we go. Now I know what the fuck's going on. That's why everything looks like it's Golden Dawn and OTO style over there. Makes sense. Now I know who's making money.
Yes. I cannot speak for those guys. I didn't dabble that much on them. But there is definitely a lot of like psyops running on there in Brazil. Like a lot of stuff they cook there, because there's also a lot of people and they're open to this. So they'll test. It's like test grounds, you know, for the special ops. Like especially also with the because in Brazil, ayahuasca.
We'll bring it over to America.
Yeah, ayahuasca is legal in Brazil, so you can actually use it in like a ritualistic or spiritual setting, and also mushrooms. So again, it's very easy to like start something, and then you put people into this kind of stuff, and God knows what comes from there, you know. So you gotta really know how to filter out the people. I'll say anywhere, but there especially, like.
All right, so now we're gonna get into it. Binah. Yeah, that is the third Sephiroth, or his third sphere on the tree. And it would be like on the top of the pillar of severity. Some people look at that, it would be the left-hand side. Some people would say that's, you know, the feminine part of the tree. I'm just gonna read off like some of the kind of basic associations with it, and then we'll kind of get into, I guess, you know, freestyle on our experience, our idea of it. If any of you want to interrupt me, please just interrupt me as I'm going through it. You know, a lot of these, I had mentioned it last time, they have associations with it. With Binah, again, that will be the third sphere, the black sphere on the top of the left pillar. And the magical image for that would be considered a mature woman or a matron. I think Jin, probably Matt, would even agree with me. I think sometimes you'll get a little bit more of a mature woman, maybe a little bit like older, or maybe the old hag might go there sometimes. The divine name would be Jehovah Elohim. The archangel would be Zafkiel, which is governing the Aralim with the thrones. The planetary, you know, thing that would go along with it would be Saturn, which I think everybody, well, not everybody may know that, but yeah, that's where Saturn goes. Spiritual experience, the vision of sorrow. And then the virtue is silence, but the vice is avarice. And if people don't know what avarice means, it's basically this, you know, like a sloth or not doing anything. Symbols and colors. You can have a chalice, Vesica Pisces. It's also considered the outer robe of concealment. Chokma is considered the inner robe of concealment. Crimson would go with this. Black would go with this. Brown would go with this. Gray and pink through the four worlds. The tarot threes would go with that. Cosmic. What else? Yeah, that's basically kind of just. I wanted to just get that in there because a lot of that stuff I think will show up as like symbology. You'll see it in art, possibly tarot, stuff like that. So, but yeah, I guess if you don't mind, Jin, if I put you on the spot, for you, like I guess through your workings and experience with the Kabbalah, how do you kind of like view, I guess, Binah in a sense?
This is a rhyme I always do because I find it very mnemonic, like a way to remember things. Is time is always contained in your mind, but it really starts at Binah. Like the greatest conception of time is really there. So it is really the understanding of cosmic time rather than our individual experience of time, which is more yesodic. So there's that again to bring that back from last night. It's the Saturn Moon matrix. It's like there are three worlds of conceptions of time, right? There's the Sun and Moon, which is a second, like a tertiary, which would be like Geburah and Hesed, sort of Tiferatic time. Then you would have individualized time or phenomenological time, even you could say that's very esoteric. But then you have the more intellectualized expansion, or maybe you're coming to that if you're saying, oh, I'm Adam Kadmon, or I'm the Adamantine Man, or I'm Enoch, and so at my peak of who I am maybe infused with cosmic time. So maybe that's kind of a way that Saturn gets to be the king of at least some of the worlds. Like everybody says, oh, Saturn, Black Cube Matrix, that's like the evil time king. But in a way, as we always talk about, Saturn is just an outer density name. It's just a planet. So it's not what we're essentially referring to in the Sephirah. But it definitely, it tells you a story. It says like there are elements of this. There's bringing things in. So in Jyotish, Saturn is the lord of karma. Saturn prays to Mahakala, the king of time, as a much higher god. Mahakala prays to Mahakali, who is his consort or his wife. And I even put a picture, I nested a picture in that. You don't have to bring it up, Nick, but I'm just, it's there if you want it.
I wasn't sure who pulled that up. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
And so so Nick's right. So there is the idea that she can, so I could have chosen an image with Kali by herself, and I maybe will for later. I'll find one when I'm not going, but this is them together. So this is a more tantric conception of Binah, really, is that it's really in, because you see even the fire is rising beneath them, the carnal fire from Geburah. And Saturn is sort of tempered by Mars in many ways, especially in Vedic astrology. Mars is the sort of protective force that people often pray to Mars or martial deities. Hanuman, the monkey king, or for Indians, they think of him as the monkey king. He's not quite the same, but they pray to him for kind of protecting them against Shani or Saturn, because he is the power of Mars in its fullness. So you can see there's like a fire of effulgence coming up from the burning ground. So the earth, Binah, is very much related to the earth. Like it's really true earth almost, you could say, like a true elemental earth. It's purified. And that's even what the fire is doing. So it's a solid ground, but with the consort there, it's really interesting. If you say the husband or the male archetype is time, then the female consort has to be Kali, the destruction of time. So when they're together, it's a constant sort of dialectical arrangement of coming and going matter, densifying and then breaking up. It's kind of like I think of it all as layers of consciousness. So when we sort of come across a new idea, and then we explore that new idea, and then we say, okay, I don't need to be contained in that, and we kind of destroy it, there's kind of the apocalypse of revelation. And so that's what I personally, so this is just me Jin riffing, but those are things that I associate particularly with Binah. And text on paper. That's a very important allegory I've used before. And I think that a lot of misunderstanding of Binah, I'm using that word very specifically, but a lot of misunderstanding arises in what Saturn and Binah is. It's really the text on the page, the black text, which can also appear flashing purple, very interesting, can also appear red in candlelight. Bright black has many interesting qualities, especially on a white vellum page. So the text is really the codified thing. So the text can also be said to be like the Bible or the law or things of that nature. Now, we don't interact with those texts specifically at Binah. Like we've talked about in the last episode. Hesed has lawyers in particular embody Hesed really well because they pull at the reins of like the fixed conceptions of Saturn. Sorry, guys. You guys go ahead. Just give me 1 second.
One thing I did want to say with the fire, the thing I was thinking about that with Geburah being underneath Saturn on the left-hand side of the tree. I often do think that could be even like almost like alchemical, where you're getting the black purification by fire. You even get like a lot of old alchemists that I've covered on the show, or occultists that go on about this purification of the soul through fire. So again, just you burn something down to soot. I mean, it's going to be black. So I do wonder about like the whole red and black. If that plays into each other.
Absolutely, especially when you know, like Sanskrit color theory, blue is really black. When you're at like for this image, this is really black. Like this is Kali or Kroda or Krishna, all words to describe black, but it's really blue black. It's really the color of lapis lazuli, which is
Yeah, that's
also a
what
sky blue color.
that's what the
So
ceiling of the OTO is, basically blue black with the white stars. And I know I've mentioned this before. Whatever, I'm just going to say it again. The Sistine Chapel, wherever Michelangelo did that shit, before he painted that on there, it had the same ceiling that the OTO uses: blue black ceiling and white stars.
I mean, you can say, Nick, that that's the whole lesson of Kabbalah, is that the differentiation of like the dark sky, the night sky, with the clear blue sky, because both of those things are really clear. The turquoise color of Hesed, as well as the lapis lazuli color of Binah. So I think that there is a way to sort of come to understanding of what the natures of things are, just because they appear as something, which is a very Binah way to sort of be in misunderstanding, is to fear maybe the thing that appears before you, just like Kali on the carnal ground. It's like all the demons, all the ghosts, all the Vitalis, all the Pretas, they're all surrounding her. And so she has to rise up on the corpse fire and sort of like say, like, I'm going to actually destroy time, but time is really the perception of your mind.
Yeah, that is something that I would definitely like to add with Binah. When it comes to time, even life or death. I think once you're like birthed into this physical reality, even if it's a thought, I mean, either it's gonna, or physical, or ends up turning physical. It has an expiration date, and time. I feel like I guess first I'd like to say, like, the way I look at Binah is kind of like two different ways. Or it's a door that swings both ways. You're either going into the abyss and separating your soul from the flesh, or kind of going back before you were conceived into the flesh. I would even say a little crazy, like almost back in time, or you're coming back into reality after the magical experience, or you're being birthed into here, I guess, next go round, or however it is. So like I see, like, fuck, where was I going with that? Yeah, well, time, I see it as constructing time when you come into here. I don't know, something I've even struggled with before, and then I even, like, when I was covering someone else, I think it was Plotinus, he was even saying, like, to even try to like, time doesn't, in his mind, doesn't, or the way he was explaining it, doesn't apply to the abyss in his way. And like, I would have to say, I guess from my experience, I don't think it is. So to even for me to try to say, I guess, some other sort of different time, but I guess it's the removal of it, or making it exist. I feel like Binah does both of that. Again, I do think, when it comes to magic, there is an actual physical death, if you want to go that far, and I do think that is even represented in Binah. Like, so I think death is actually considered to go along with Saturn, and then the rebirth, in my opinion, happens in the same sphere. It's just into the spirit, it's into like the mind. It's not actually like matter anymore. The vision of sorrow, that's an experience. And for me, I could be wrong, but like, I could say for me, the vision of sorrow was real in the sense that after I had experienced what I experienced, the visions and the experiences that I had in the abyss obviously let me know that the way I had viewed the world prior was not correct. And it's not what I thought it was. And I will be honest, there was a little bit of being upset about that. And I felt like I was lied to. And like, just things aren't, it's hard to explain, but for me, it was a little bit of sorrow with knowing truths that maybe I wasn't like looking for yet. I don't know. Like maybe that was just me being a pussy, and that's not what that's not what the experience is. But that's how it worked for me. I did feel some sort of sorrow. I would even say I felt sorrow from being separated from that experience again. Of having that experience and being like, "What the fuck? Why am I stuck here? If that's existence, why the fuck am I stuck in this fucking reality?" So I'll add that in, and then anybody else can have some shit all add.
It is very interesting though that the Saturn or Binah or whatever, right? The black sphere is supposed to be the one that is contracting, right? Or organizing, or even you can say destroying. When you put like Shiva in that sphere, you can say it's destroying the illusions. So it's when you come into the understanding of the situation, like what you're saying. Okay, I understood the experience I was having maybe wasn't the best. Now what do you do with it?
Yeah.
In theory, you should grow wise. You should become wiser now that you understand. But at the same time, it's also like it's kind of like you're almost out. So you get a taste of, do I go out, or now I have to come back and, complete the experience that I'm doing here, or whatever it is. So also regarding time, it is, so we can use, for example, the Greek example of Chronos time, but also there's the Kairos time, right? So Chronos time being the one which is ordering things. So let's say the calendar or the hours, like the counted time, the future that we expect, the past that already went, and so on and so on. But then there's also Kairos time, which you could say it's like the digital time, like Chronos being the analog, the one you count, Kairos being the digital, because it's the time that it's actually the only time that exists. It's like the actual moment, the moment right now, that when you are experiencing something and you are present there, like you're in the flow and so on and so on. And I would say that time isn't necessarily at Binah, because it's this Kairos time. It could be even maybe in Daath, it's like outside, right? Like you're outside of the experience. Or another way to visualize it also is, imagine you have, like, for people who edit videos, or when you're watching a video, you have the whole timeline, right? But you're always watching the video at one point. But you as an outsider, you can see the whole timeline. So you could skip and come back and so on. So again, you're outside of the Chronos time, but you have to interact with it, So again, it's a very interesting way to visualize your life as well, when you look back at things and see, wait a second.
You know what I think is probably a really good way to explain it? It's going to sound cheesy. It's like going from like, in the flesh, and all of a sudden, like now I'm looking like at the orphan. How like you can almost like just see like be all over. You know what I'm saying? That's what it just seemed like to me. I was like, that was it went from one extreme to the next. I'm seeing just from this point of view to like fucking everything everywhere once. Like, it was just weird.
Exactly. And that's the thing as well about Binah, which is, I'm guessing you guys already did an episode on Chokhmah, but it would be like the thing was now expanded, right? The light was refracted. So now you have everything going on, the chaos, everything going on. But if you only have that, then you cannot have anything. Like you cannot have, let's say, a particle, a thing that to hold on to. So Binah comes to, again, aggregate. It's like it's like the tzim, which is like the contractor. Tzum, I think, expands, and tzim is the contractor. I don't remember exactly the name now in Hebrew, but that's the idea. Like you're contracting the chaos so that you can have an experience. So like to me, that's what the left column is mostly about. The severity column is like contracting things. Again, Mars, like being disciplined, or like the control of things. Again, Hod, making things rational, like place things inside your left brain and so on. And the right column, the opposite. So again, at Binah is like the beginning of the contraction, the beginning of, again, trying to understand something. So if you cannot, like, a way also I like to explain it, when you're going down the tree, so like the lightning path, when you need to create something, again, you need to first have the idea of what you need to create, the insight, right? The cat there. You need to be able to like visualize it and see it, again, the wisdom of it. Because if you cannot, then, well, whatever, you want something, but you cannot even describe it. It's impossible, right? And Binah, it's like the light, which is Chokhmah, becoming sound. So it's when, again, you're understanding the thing in a way that you can actually explain it. So, and that, again, it doesn't have to be crazy, right? Like when you're ordering food, you need to be able to explain the type of food you want to order. Otherwise, you cannot order food, like such a basic thing, right? So, and it grows to other complexities whenever you want to do magical operations and so on.
That's one of the, I think you said that great, Matt. I think that's, and also Nick, of course. But I think, I think you're both right. I think it all sort of converges on this thing. It's like it's gravitational. think that's also very much associated with Binah. If you want to give it more of a astrophysical sort of idea, it's the like Matt said, it's the densifying factor, it's the aggregating factor, it's the conglomerating factor. It brings things in, and that's also why like the Saturnian element is lead. And it's also why like there are different ideas, different colors that you can describe. Obviously, Nick describes some, but I want to bring this in because I find it really interesting just intellectually, whether you believe it or not. But there is Rabbi Cordovero, who we spoke about last time. He did write about the green flashing of Binah. So I always found this quite interesting because in a lot of the Sufi texts, they will often also talk about this in terms of like I've seen images where they'll have El Qadir. So if you're familiar with El Qadir, he is the green man, and he's like a Sufi saint, and he wears a green robe. He's not quite a Sufi saint. I mean, he is and he isn't. So it's kind of a mixture. But the idea is like when you're there is a green sort of element of reflection. So you could probably understand that you could say through Netzach. You could also say through Hesed, and maybe even through Tiferet. And then I think all of those things. Obviously, Matt uses a different system, so I'm not I'm not saying anything in contradiction. Of course, I see to Matt, but I think it's an interesting thing to think about because why it's a very specific sort of idea. Anyways, I pulled up an icon that kind of shows this, Nick, and I just want to say, like, so if you hear about this, a green flashing at Binah, you can also relate it to, as I said, the sort of Binah Netzach connection, sort of like the feminine divinity with the sort of formational force of the world that is Binah. But of course, I like what Nick said last time, which is like every Sephirah has a masculine and feminine component. It doesn't, in my opinion, that's just me. I don't think it serves anyone to be inherently dualistic in how they approach the Sephirah. I think that's going to color your kind of relationship with Daath, which is obviously in the inner density, I would say.
Thank you.
Somebody,
I was thinking
somebody made a question here about misunderstanding possibly being the cliff of Binah. I would say, in a way, to me, it's more about coding things. So when you're using the power of contraction to prevent the light from going outside, then you're being an agent, an occult agent. Like you're trying to not get the information to be understood. Therefore, misunderstanding, kinda, in a way. And but you see, the way I understand Binah as well, it is one of the spheres most used for occulting stuff or occulting things in this reality. So like I really relate sound to Binah. So like music is a very potent way to control people. Like you go to like the church mass, they're like playing the music, especially like the most crazy ones, which they get, all the performance there. In Brazil, you have a lot of those. And you are, again, playing that music in the background. The guy's like talking all the things that you want to hear and so on and so on. But the same, like you go to a concert, they're playing the music there to, change how you are feeling, how you're thinking. And the same now with even TikTok, they put like the music in your head all the time, like the same music over and over, like reprogramming you and so on. So sound and music is a very powerful way to like occult stuff. Or even I saw the other a couple months ago, I think in Serbia, if I'm not mistaken, there was this like protest. There was a lot of people in the streets and so on, and they used like a supersonic whatever weapon, like just made a huge sound and like it dispersed everyone. Like nobody knew what the fuck was going on because it was such a huge sound. I think it was like high pitch or whatever, and people just were dispersed like with a easy, quote unquote easy. Like there's no guns, anything. It's just the sound thing made everyone go away. So again, it's very, very powerful.
Just want to riff. Oh, sorry, Nick.
When you talk about the expansion, the contraction, and stuff like that, even makes me think about how I attribute the eyeballs to stuff. Because that does happen, and that determines how much light is getting sucked in or not. So, just wanted to throw that in there.
I think that the eye stuff that you've pioneered, Nick, in the sense that like of what modern people are talking about, I think that that's 100% correlates with Binah. I think it makes sense even in the iconography you have pulled up right now. I think it looks very much like a magical experience and like an eye and things you'd see. So I'm there. And but also to go off with what Matt said about sound, I think this is a really interesting point. Kali is kind of the time of silence. Like Nick will often say this because it's a hermetic kind of way to frame that same experience that everybody really has, like any magician has. But yeah, she doesn't speak because her tongue is lolling. She can't speak the primordial word. So it's kind of interesting if you think of it like that. She's not the prime creatrix, she's just the prime mover. So that's kind of an interesting difference that Tantra sort of applies to the tree, is that Kali is not the originator of either knowledge or the sort of greater tree itself. But she's maybe exactly what Matt said, the encoder of it. And then you can also say that the klipa of Binah really is the occulting of things, occulting particularly of both exoteric and esoteric knowledge. So institutions, any institution, a university, a secret fraternity of magicians, that they're all guilty of occulting. The government, they all, it's all the practice of klipa making, all of that.
All the big
So,
corporations, like the
that's right.
CEO is not gonna have like a camera at their room, but everyone's gonna be watchable by the corporation, right? Like the higher you go, the bigger the company. Again, it's gonna be less and less transparent what exactly is going on, and also governments, yeah, like you said.
Absolutely. And so there is a, like we said also, it's like there's something inherently unstable about this Sephira, because it's not really meant to be, it's outside of the eternity that is Netzach. It's almost, it's not quite unbound from the fixture, but it kind of it goes according to its own rules, which is very banal. Like it's its own ruler. So exactly what Nick said, like you both come and go here. You come into flesh and you come out of flesh. You could say you're stripped down to your bones. That would be a very tantric way to describe it, right? Like you put the body in the cremation fire and you strip it all the way down to the bones, and then the vultures eat the rest, or the crows, depending on where you are. But no, that's basically it. So I agree. It's like it is the prime representation of the carnal ground where we exist, you could say. But this is also obviously consciousness. I'm not saying it necessarily real, but you could say that's one way to think of it. But once you get greater in your understanding, you're like, oh, I can actually look at these things in different ways. I can perceive them. My view has changed. The way, the angle I approach things from can be different because I'm not so locked into a discursive mode, ideological mode. That's another really interesting klipa of Binah, is to put people into silos. That's also very academic, right? Like, oh, this person studies. Okay, so for me, I studied the tantric art. I mean, basically. So that's a very limited way to look at the world. You're really in like a very fixed perception, but Binah can also help you break out of that. But people don't realize that usually because it's so much associated with Saturn and so much associated with fixed things and magnetization and all of that. But really, we were talking supernal triad. It's really processes of consciousness, and that's really where, in my opinion, real magic is.
I like that, the magnetization. Yeah, I would even look at the left pillar alone as a magnet, and the right pillar is like electricity or energy.
Yes.
Something I did think, like, we're talking about, kind of a doorway. Even Saturn itself is associated with air, which is where I think like you kind of start going into spirit. You're not matter anymore. You're traveling through the air. And not to sound cheesy, I brought this up a while ago, and there's newer people listening, so maybe they haven't heard me say it. And it's just something I swear I think I might be onto something with this. I've brought up Charlie Brown before when it comes to Saturn. I mentioned before that brown can be a color. And he's even got a yellow shirt on, which is the color for air. And then that does look like the Aquarius symbol across his fucking shirt. So I do question if Charlie Brown is actually really like Saturn in a sense. You know, and then he's got his boy on top of the red barn. And was that Gabora right underneath him? His dog. The red little doghouse, not the barn, but I think there's actually a lot of occult symbolism in Charlie Brown. It sounds
Well,
crazy.
if you interpret it as like how Matt says is pop Kabbalah, then absolutely. Then you can just see like he's using his associations. Maybe he's not even thinking of Kabbalah per se.
Even if you look like Crowley's New Wheat or Crowley's chick, you know, always talking about, again, going back to the blue and black, Lucy. You know what I'm saying? Black hair, blue outfit. I don't know. I just think there's like a lot of like, again, that same symbology. There's just something weird in that. That's just my opinion. You know, and if you think about it, technically at the bottom of the blues pillar, you know, the top of the blue, the right-hand side, even though it's male, down at the bottom, you would have a female, even though the top of it is a blue color. Whatever. It's just, I do think there might be cult symbolism in Charlie Brown.
No, there absolutely is. But even what you said about like Binah and Netzach, like Matt will speak more to this, I'm sure, but that's a really interesting sort of path working. And it's also right. And then it's also like Binah also has a connection to Tiferet. So you would get like slight green, you would get slight gold, you would get like there are elements that are coming up. And so you can see where people are maybe getting stuck, since that is kind of Binah's kind of quality until you choose or you kind of orient yourself to not be stuck because you need it, but you have to like, I think, be conscious of your relationship with it too.
Yeah, it's also an interesting way to like meditate on what you are hiding from yourself, like especially failures, right? We tend to say, no, I'm perfect, I don't have any failures and so on. That's going to be like the cliff of Binah acting on you, which you can rectify. You can like shine light on that so that you start to work on those. Like that should be the klifa work from my perspective. Like you're using it to understand how you can see in others, but to understand how you are using it in yourself, and then again rectify it, like change the experience here. Because indeed, like the tree can become super complex, right? If you get into, for example, spheres inside of like trees inside of the spheres and like moving and so on, because we tend to study it like fixed, right? Like the tree always in the same way, but maybe the aspect is going to be slightly different with time and so on. So it starts to get really crazy. But yeah, I'd say that the main idea of like condensing things, but also destroying them. Again, if you relate Shiva to it, to Binah, it's going to be your best friend, to killing all the illusions that you created about yourself, like the character you are right now. Like Matt's a character, right? I'm not this. I am experiencing this character right now. And it has a lot of illusions. Like, let's say from when I was born, people would say something and then I would aggregate that to me again. But now I can use that same energy, the aggregator, to, clear it and say, no, wait a second. I don't want that anymore. Let's not be fixed. I can change that. I can evolve with like your taste and so on. So also Nick beautifully said, like the colors that you're wearing tell a lot about where your consciousness is. And it is funny that a lot of people tend to wear black or all black, or like prefer, like it's a color that you see everywhere, right? Even though it's, if you stop to think about it, it's not like a natural color, right? It's not like you see black like in everyday things, like in nature or whatever. But in people things, like in things we buy, there is a lot of black, like in cars, like clothing, cell phones, again, the little black mirror. So it's everywhere, really, if you stop to think about it.
There's a great comment from Nature's Path to Wholeness that I think Matt is well equipped to handle. When you say the Klipa of Binah, are you speaking of the Klipothic Sephira? That is the partner of Binah. I'll just say for me, I'm not. I'm speaking of it in a more traditional, maybe even a more Lurianic way, where they are ideas in the Sephira themselves. I only believe in the one tree. I don't believe in the many trees. Like the tree is infinite, and it's like Matt will explains this quite well, but for me, I think that you experience all the klipas already. I don't think that it serves it doesn't serve any beginner, especially beginner, to study the klipas in any way. You're just going to be aggregated, and you see this. All the left-hand path guys, they're all emo. They're all like, I'm depressed. There's even, I read a book. I know it's like funny, but I read a Fraternitas Saturni book, and he was like, depression is the left-hand path. And I'm like, no, that's a you problem. That's not a left-hand path problem. That's a you problem. So I think that's exactly what the klipas are for, too, to capture your consciousness in low ideas. So, like Matt's saying, Binah is a supernal triad. So try and break those klipas of those lower conceptions of you have of both the world and yourself. That's what I think, too. Sorry, I didn't mean to do a sermon there, but I just want to say it's klipas are. It's really it's like the aggregates that we name, the vessels that we name, and whether those vessels have the truth in them or not, I think is up to us to discern. But we also have to make sure that we're not worshiping husks or vessels.
Yeah. Well, one way you can say it, it's like when you have an oyster, you have the oyster and the meat inside of it, right? And after you eat, like you remove the meat, you have just the husk, really, just the thing left there without any life anymore. There's maybe some speckles of whatever was left there, but it's really not the thing that you wanted anymore. And when I talk about like the klifas or husks, that's what I'm talking about. Like the light came, it filled the sphere with light, but it didn't hold all the light. So it broke and it shattered, and now you have this kind of a leftovers from the thing. But it is part of the same thing, like Jin is saying. So again, it's really in you. Anytime you are interacting with any of and I would say not only the spheres, but also the paths, right? If you want to get into, let's say, tarot and correlating them to the paths. So in the same way, whenever you have an arcana, you're not only using them in the light. So that's when all the, light workers, peace, and so on, like that's bullshit as well. Like you're working with both, like if you're on a really middle pillar, you got to work with both. That's how it goes. But you rectify the quote unquote bad or shadow, you integrate, and you use the light. Like you get both of them, all of them.
Exactly. I want to just second that, what Matt said. It's not about going to the extreme opposite of the right-hand pillar either. It's really, at least for how the Grey Lodge and just me, Jin, personally approaches Kabbalah, I'm a middle path person. I also practice Buddhism, obviously. So we're a middle path religion. So this is like something that's very, very, very important to us. But I also see that it's metaphysically very potent. Now, it doesn't have necessarily the same qualities, but as we discussed in the last episode with Nick and I, is like Kether is everything, and Hokmah has all the potential. So, there's just because it doesn't seem maybe as metaphysically potent to draw from other Sephira or to balance yourself out or to rectify, it actually is. It takes a little longer and it's a lot harder.
Oh, something I did want to add too, when I've had my experience, I've said that I've gone kind of deaf. I don't hear anything when I've crossed the abyss. So I have wondered if that has something to do with the silence. What else did I want to say?
You could say that silence was like, for example, one way to interpret it would be even in the Ein Sof, like you're getting already outside of the tree and to the endless, right? And some, I'd say mostly left-hand path workers would say that's the end, right? Like you end there in whenever you die, you go to the void, and whatever, you don't have anything anymore. Sure, you can end there, but there's still the Ein, right? You don't need to get that far. But indeed, like if you remove all the illusions, that's the question. If you remove everything that is an illusion, what's left? Like who's the real you? If your character here, like Matt, Nick, Jin, whatever, was something built from its environment, family, anything, and you start removing that, you start to understand, okay, that was just like a mini AI, mini character programmed. Then okay, what's left? What's the essence really? The same with the klifas we built out of the tree. When you start doing some associations and so on.
Right, that's a klipa. That's a great point, Matt. Is that even us to give attributions to the Sephira, it, like we said the last time, it should always be quality less. Like whether it's lapis lazuli or turquoise, it's still clear. So as long if we can get our consciousness to recognize that at all times, then that's really the potent sort of element of the tree.
Well said, sir. Was there anything else you wanted to say about Binah? Maybe we'll move on.
Oh, I just wanted to throw this out there that there are some interesting Vedic astrological associations. There is amethyst is sometimes given as a remedy for Saturn or Shani. Also, sapphire, blue sapphire. I always thought this was really interesting. I brought it up many years ago with you, Nick, on our Tantra and Kabbalah series, and you seemed really interested in it. Is that blue sapphire is actually the planetary, it's considered the highest planetary stone of Saturn in Vedic astrology. And so it's a little different. You can see that they're much more oriented to that bluer color rather than a pure pitch black. So I always thought that was really interesting. And also like what we were talking about, especially what you talked about, Nick, was that kind of constrictive and destructive mode. That is that path between Hokmah and Binah. It's a path of fire and earth, and air obviously arises through that interaction. So it's very interesting.
Thank you. Matt, is there anything that you wanted to add?
I think for now we're clear. Yeah.
Thank you both. Again, I think an overall theme is time, death, and stuff like that. All right. So yeah, now when I go into, I'm going to cover Daath, and like I had said, I really didn't get much into even really acknowledging that sphere until after I had magical experience. The way I'll be, kind of giving these associations is out of Gareth Knight's book, Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism. His book has the spheres and the paths in it, and it was probably my favorite Kabbalah book out of all the ones I've read. So I just figured I'd pull his, stuff that he has for the associations. I guess the Hebrew meaning, knowledge. Well, that's kind of like I think what's the name for the sphere. It's considered invisible or unnumbered. He has in here the magical image would be Janus. The divine name, I think he leaves it open, but some people have used Yah, Hey, Vad, Hey, Elohim. But that kind of like, I think that's used already. There's no archangel. He doesn't attribute anything to that. The colors he attributes to it would be lavender, silver, gray, pure violet, gray flecked with yellow. The virtue would be impersonal justice, the capacity to act without ego and bias. Vices, doubt, apathy, inertia, cowardice, pride, vision across the abyss, mundane correspondence. Knights favor Sirius. So that's interesting. He's using, I guess, Sirius as the fixed star. I wonder if Mario knows that. That's interesting. Key symbol could be a prism, an empty room, a condemned cell, sacred mountaintop, grain of corn. And yeah, that's about it for the associations that I have. I don't know if maybe a Jin. I know you do go on about Daath a lot, and that put you on the spot now. But like, I guess what would be your if you take it away with your experience with Daath?
Like you said, Nick, I think you said it the best. And you said it first. Like, I'm not going to take that from you, but you said it, you only became more interested in it after you had magical experiences. So this was really interesting to me when you first said that. I can't remember exactly when, but that's exactly my experience as well. It seemed like a almost impossible to get to place. Just reading about it intellectually, it didn't seem, and I think it's actually supposed to be like that. I think it's actually supposed to be a threshold. Obviously, that's part of the name of my show. So I do think that Daath is a threshold. And I think it is, you don't need to worry about it so much. Like, have a contour of what it is, but be flexible. because I think a lot of magicians, like I like Kenneth Grant and I like Mauve Zone, and it's very interesting to me, all that. But I think they get very fixed on what these kinds of places or what these things are. And it's also about, like we've talked about many times, it's also about like the meta myth of other magicians telling you, oh, when you're climbing the tree, you're going to see machine elves, like to bring up Rogan. You tell people you're going to see machine elves, they're more inclined to see machine elves. That's just the reality. You're suggestive, right? So Kenneth Grant really places this idea of like a very fixed kind of like, I often joke about this. I won't use the specific language that I do, but a kind of, we'll say, hermaphroditic, um, feminine-ish kind of Kybel goddess thing. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm not saying that that's not true in some ways, but I think that I would not have never used that container to describe it. And I think it's actually a very masculine Sephira. That's how a Buddhist would understand it. It'd be a very masculine Sephira. And there's actually a really interesting bodhisattva named Manjushri. And Manjushri is the bodhisattva of non-dual gnosis. So this is also how Daath is sometimes translated as gnosis. So I just think, well, isn't that interesting? Maybe the sort of idea of Daath is non-dual. In its core, it's like beyond death, and it's beyond time, and it's also beyond the conceptualization of our minds. And then what is left? Well, there's smoke. So I think that's a lot of sort of that experience. And I think even the colors really spoke to that when Nick went through them.
Yeah, that is it's a very interesting sphere. Like the way I understand it, also from experiences, is it's basically after light. So you have again formless energy, right? Became light at Chokhmah, got compressed at Binah. That's the compression, the contraction. Here it gets expanded again. So it's like the portal again between the three at the top and all the rest. So another way also you can see it in, and that's the way I riff on Kabbalah, is like connecting other cultures. You can see it in the yin yang, actually, the way I understand it. You can see like as the duality itself. So the black part of the yin yang, which is the yin in this case, would be the bina, kind of going again in this portal towards all the other things. And the way they explain it also is very interesting, because they say from like the Tao comes the yin and yang, or something like that. From the Tao comes the yang, the yang comes the yin, and so on. Like it's this triad, and then from it comes all the like 10,000 things. So again, from Binah, it's everything is birthed and so on. So it's again, and when people say, "Oh, it's the sphere, not sphere, the thing, not thing," that, and when you interact with it, you understand. Okay, at least from my perspective, it's this kind of duality, this kind of in between words. You could say also it's the Hades or other correspondences like Pluto, Osiris, like this underworld god. So again, it's the one, and where is the underworld? Again, in the mind, always, right? It's you can say it's like the subconscious. So it's behind, it's guarding all the richness, again, all the things that you have, all the programmings that you have in your mind. And to go there, you need to, go through this quote unquote portal. You need to not be here, not so here anymore, and there. So it's this kind of duality thing that plays a lot. So also there's the I think it's called Arich and Pin or something like that, like the short face god, long face god, that they'll talk about in like Hebrew Kabbalah. So again, you start to see how they portray it is very, very, very similar. Also, when you start experiencing the things.
One thing I do want to toss in, Jen, I see you brought up another image, so I'll jump over to that after this. For me, and I guess like why it clicked in my head to start paying attention to it. And again, it's not to sound cheesy or whatever. It is what it is. It's my experience. It's how it seemed to happen. Is that after I'd have these like magical experiences, I think I crossed the abyss. When I open up my eyes, I will have like just this flutter of stuff come into me that like it's just like somehow it's a knowing. It's not like a faith. It's hard to explain. And I've always thought like maybe that's, you know, the knowledge that starts to come, you know, flutter into your head after your experience. You know, I don't know how that is. I don't know if it's like, you know, I've questioned like, are you tapping into like, you know, the all, or like everything exists, you know, so you can just pick up ideas, and maybe, I don't know, when I open up my eyes, some of it gets, you know, converted into thought in this reality, and it comes back with me. But there is knowing of things that I didn't know prior, for me at least. I just want to throw that in there.
I
Yeah,
100% agree with that. Sorry, man.
same. No, go on. Just relaying. Yeah, I feel the same.
I mean, yeah, that's really what it is. It's where the lightning happens. I think that's a really interesting sort of way to call it, or to articulate it. And I think that it's also a place of synthesis. Like, I think it becomes accessible to the magician after he crosses the threshold and sort of figures out a regular, maybe not fixed way, but a kind of a hermeneutic to get back. So I agree with you. It's an incredibly important sephira. And I think this is why Ramek was smart to not actually place it on the tree and to say it is the fifth density, rather than to say, oh, it's this place that you go to. But maybe it's in all the different kinds of wisdoms, or all the different kinds of splendors that you experience that are of God. Well, that's his idea, right? So, I think that's actually more true. I think it's more like in Buddhism, we would say there's an emptiness behind the nature of all things. And as Lisa and I have often said together, emptiness is not nothingness, it's luminousness and masslessness. So it's like a higher consciousness beyond than like even our like vessel or our husk is like capable of at regular times, but it's also accessible. And so a lot of Buddhists will talk about like Rigpa, this diamond thunder mind, this kind of like clear expanse in space, like Brother Solar from our lodge. He'll talk about how the Daath and Rigpa are very similar or the same, and I agree. 100% agree. So there's this icon that Nick brought up. Thank you, Nick. Is really it's a beautiful icon. It's a deity called Havajra. So that even his name can actually be described as the diamond thunder breath. And his wife's name is actually Naraitma, which means she who is without fixed self. Now, this is a different tantric deity that Nick brought up, also a phenomenal tanka. Good job, Jin. So this is Yamataka, the slayer of death. And actually, if you look under his feet, he is standing on both Shiva, but we wouldn't call him Shiva, we'd call him Bhairava, so the ferocious god of time, and his wife. And his wife, so the guy with the bull face, very Moloch, but his wife is actually named Vajra Vitali, the Diamond Thunder vampire. He has to raise her back into life. That's why I often say that this is where the lightning happens, because you have to conquer your fears. So yes, there is an interaction with Binah, there's an interaction with Saturn, but you're moving away from that. You're very Plutonic. Now, I don't know if Matt agrees with this, and Matt, you can chime in, of course, but I like Pluto for Daath. I think it makes sense. But I also agree, and we've talked about this many times, is that the Daath, Kether, and Hokmah shift and can be understood in different ways depending on different kalpas or aeons. So it's good. It's very good to not have a fixed position, but I do like Pluto because this is kind of more the Buddhist idea. So
Yeah.
I just want to throw that in there.
Again, we were talking about, right, not being fixed on the ideas. And the way I like to explain it is whenever you relate something to a sphere, it's not about that thing being the sphere or the sphere being that thing, but rather that's a good example, like generally, of that sphere. So let's use a mundane thing. If I'm talking about footballers, I'm not going to talk about like a guy like Gordon Ramsay or whatever, right? Like a cook. I'm going to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, Pelé, or whatever, someone that is good as a footballer, which doesn't mean that the footballer isn't also something else. Like he's a father, he's like a man, he's this, that, and so on. So in the same way, I completely agree. Not only even the three, like the top ones, Kether, Hokmah, and Binah, but any of them. So you could say even that, again, whatever we relate things to Mars, or sorry, to Gibora, are not always there. Like the tree, I can share the screen in a bit, but like the tree, to my understanding, is always moving. And even that plays into that a bit. which, by the way, just remember, there's this Egyptian concept of Daath, which, again, you start to understand it's their underworld. It's like, oh, okay. So who came up with the concept first, But it's whatever. It's funny. And you have this idea of every 4 aeons, okay, every 4 ages, if we're talking about astrology, and Jin will like this a lot, is you build another sphere. So again, the tree, when it was like, I don't know, 8,000 years ago, something like that, we had the Ogdoad. So again, the Egyptian, they had the 8 spheres tree. And then we had like the 9 spheres tree. And now we have like a 10 spheres tree with a 11th sphere, not sphere. So my understanding, cosmologically, the tree keeps evolving. And that, as from my perspective, and also the way I was initiated, and I see it makes sense, is the next sphere being built. So again, every 4 cycles, so we have fire age, like we had the last one was Aries, then earth, fire, water, and air. So we have earth, the last one was Taurus, so fire, Aries, water, Pisces, and now air, Aquarius. It would be the end of the construction of the thing. And then you might see, okay, wait a second, is it now getting so popular, like VR and like getting into the digital realm and like crypto and like everything digital, again, this separate world that we are creating? It's like the nth simulation, let's say, that we are entering. And again, another sphere, like you keep entering and so on. Very speculative, but it's the way that I understand that as, again, this thing that it's here but not here, like Wi-Fi, like you can interact with it, but you cannot really do anything more. Like you can interact with it through some means, but it's not really here. Like you cannot point to it, you cannot, it's very abstract, it's very not here and so on. But it is here at the same time. So also, I saw someone mentioning tarot, and the way I use tarot with the Kabbalah is I place all the royalty cards, in the Daath. So any of like the king, queen, the page, and the knights. So that's how I use them. And it seems to be very interesting because then you understand them as kind of like the personalities in the reading. So if you're doing some type of reading and then, King of Wands comes or whatever, then understand, okay, it's the personality of like the active thing, the active masculine thing, the starter, with the fire. So again, in Atziluth, I think, the fire word, right? So again, you can start to play around with all those ideas.
That's great, Matt. I totally agree. I just want to point out, like, even what you said about the absolute world, you can see at the, if you're looking at the screen, it's on the viewers, the witnesses, right-hand side. You see Sri Devi Palden Lamo, aka Mahakali. So we talked about Kali for Binah, but you can see her at the bottom there, and she's surrounded by smoke, not fire. Meaning, and she's riding the donkey, the ass at the end of the world, if you want to call it that. But it's interesting because that I've always thought that fits very well with the Hebrew path between Binah and Hokmah, because the world is already destroyed as she rides between time and the idea, between understanding and wisdom. I really think that it's destroyed, but then she also brings it back into formation. She's also destroying as she goes. So you're kind of losing that fire world and you're gaining, like exactly what Matt said, you're gaining a ground because it's a burning ground. It's not totally, there's still fire, there's still air, there's still earth. And what we're missing really is always water. At least in my opinion, I think that is more true than not true. Is like we are not drawing maybe the proper portion from the right pillar as much as we can be. That Hasidic kind of ideas of loving kindness. See, I know Matt knows that I'm very fixated on this, but I think it's a really important note, especially if we're looking at Buddhist iconography, that we do really place high emphasis on bodhicitta. Whether that's exactly the same as loving kindness, I think it is, but maybe Brother Solar would disagree.
Yeah, another way I like to see it as well is like when you are going up the tree, which I don't recommend you for a beginning, like going up the tree, I mean going with the klifas, like breaking the klifas and so on. And then you reach that, then you start coming down the tree with the lightning path and creating things. And then it becomes like this circle, right? You start, again, you rectify yourself, create something, and then you rectify yourself, create something, and then it goes on and on infinitely. So it plays this role of like being a portal.
Prometheus is killing me out there. My man. Sorry.
No, I like Justin. It's cool that
Yeah, I always love when he comes on. Something I just want to add is just like little small things that I'm getting out of that I kind of got out of what Gareth Knight had said in here. The thing with Janice, and I always kind of like associated that with really Chokma, because I do think it's like, well, you're coming face to face with God, but I do think like you kind of also then can choose to go the other way. It's almost like another hinge again in itself. But I can see that he attributed it to Daath, and I can see that too, because I guess at that point you would have experience of both sides. Like I guess like if you took on the Janus archetype, you've already been there and back, or you were on your way practically there. So I did feel that was kind of interesting, and then something with his vices that hit me as I was reading it this time. He said doubt, apathy, inertia, cowardice, or pride. I've always said for myself, whenever I have the magical experience, as soon as I start kind of like thinking, it ends. But like I'm realizing most of my thoughts are always like, where am I and what am I? And that was that doubt because I don't know. Or one other time I was like, this doesn't look like it might be a good experience. Maybe I should not do this. Is that cowardice? I don't know, but it just hit me when I was reading that, because like that kind of is my experience that would take me out of the abyss. I don't know.
Discursive thinking. No, exactly what you said, Nick. Discursive thinking. Solar had a tweet about this, about discursive thinking is like the true schizo, is like this. That's what makes reality, is the schizophrenia. And I agree with that. Is like when we expand into thought and also like these outward klipothic consciousness, that's not necessarily good or bad, but just like names that we put on vessels. So when we expand into that, we sort of break out of that like place where we're able to access knowledge. I totally agree with that. So yeah, I think that's really interesting, because this is what this deity even represents. Like you can see there's Yama in the bottom left hand corner. He's the god of death. Then you have Mahakala. So you have the time king at the bottom center, and then you have Mahakali there. So he's higher than them. He's conquered them. He's conquered time, conquered death. His wife has resurrected. So it's, all the symbolism is really there. And like the Janus thing, like, yeah, he has heads pervading all realities. In Buddhism, there's 10 directions. So not all the deities have 10 heads, but he does in particular, because it is kind of it's a very liberatory Sephira. And so I think Kenneth Grant's like sort of inclination that it is very powerful and sort of able to take you out of the cube. Yes, because you're able to sort of go outside the cube and then see what it is, maybe, but with a like stronger understanding that it's also conceptual and also in your mind. So it's like you kind of create it. You kind of, like Vanessa saying, the abyss. It's exactly that. It's like you see the carnal ground, but the carnal ground is really your mind. So you can decide how you interact and also what arises there.
Yeah, I like what Justin's saying there too. Yes, Jen nailed it. That is what I believe the book of Revelation does with John's vision too. So, But Matt, do you have anything else you wanted to maybe add with Daath?
I think it's very misunderstood usually. Also, that's something to point out if you're like I completely agree with you guys. Don't go just by the books, like the book should be the text should be the foundation, like or better yet, you should have a master to like help you initiate. It's like if you think about it, it's mathematical. If you have someone which comes from a lineage of people which were initiated and so on, and that's for real, you're just getting sped up. You're not getting through the experiences just yourself and trying to figure out what is and what isn't and so on. So I'd say, especially with that, it's very important that you try and have the experiences through, whatever means makes more sense to you. I'd say personally, again, comes with environment. So in Brazil, it is legal and it can be easy to find like ritualistic ayahuasca and mushrooms usage. And to me, those were one of the experiences that helped me break a lot of klifas, just because it put me in this, again, here, not here state. Because when you are using an entheogen like ayahuasca, and I'm not advocating for it, don't use it if you don't know what it is. Don't, try it out. It's not a game. But the thing is, you are still conscious, but you're still accessing this other place. You're fully conscious of the thing, and you can, interact with all these different ideas in your head and so on. So then it made me realize, well, okay, maybe there's more to life than just material things. Maybe I can start, having a look at those things, more seriously, because I had some experiences before, but still was super skeptical. I'll say getting into the top, and again, you would have to go through that to go into the top 3 spheres, right? So it is very important that you know what you're doing in a way that you also don't get down into the cliphotic 3, right? Because it is the portal. So yeah, it's a very interesting sphere. And to me, again, the way I use tarot is in a meditation way. It's like it helps guide my consciousness. So if you understand reality as this frame by frame thing, so it's like a movie, right? A video doesn't happen like in a blast. The video is like a lot of images, like what you're seeing right now. It's a lot of images put in on top of each other. So when you understand that, you can understand the tarot as the images that are going to pop up. So if right now you need, let's say, the emperor, okay, you bring up the emperor, all the archetype, everything that comes with it, even if you want to relate it to Kabbalah, the path, and so on, and you use it. So in that way, when I'm relating like I said, the Daath to all the royalty cards, then you can use them in a very interesting way, because they are going to be like your unconscious. So it's the deepest of the programmings. It's like the program that you're not even aware it's running in the background. The subconscious is the programs that are running in the background. The conscious, all the programs that you're running right now. The unconscious, like all the deep programs, like coming from, if you want to go that way, past lives, whatever it is, right? But all the deep stuff. So for you to go there, you need the correct keys, the correct archetypes. And it's going to be very interesting. The more you start to play around, if you want to use specific myths for that, like for example, a tarot I like using is the mythic one with the Greek stories, and you can look at the royalty cards and the stories they're portraying there and play around with them. Change the stories, see how they would relate to your life. It's a very interesting practice to do.
Something you said, Matt, was super interesting to me, was that Daath is a place that it's sort of that place you see when you're going up. And I agree. I totally agree with that. It is kind of like it sort of reveals itself to you the higher you go on the tree, I think. And so maybe that is also, to go back to what Nick said, it's maybe that's why it's also not as interesting for people to approach just intellectually, just through that path of study, simply because it doesn't immediately reveal itself. It's very in and out. It's very hidden. So, but not because of its nature being esoteric even. It's just because of its empty nature, you could say.
So
There was a nice comment here I wanted to address, if it's possible, real quick.
Go for it, please.
So someone commented, where's it? Let me find it. What the Ka and Ba and Allah going on here? So indeed, very interesting question. Like what even the name means, right? Kabbalah. If you go to Jewish mysticism, they'll say, it's like what is it? Revelation or whatever. It's like they're gonna give you some idea, right? Okay, that's good. You can go with that. But you can break it down like this person beautifully did. You can break it down. The Ka, the Ba, and the La, right? The Allah was after,
I'll be totally honest with you, just real quick. The funny thing is a person who commented that may not have even meant that literal. This guy says crazy shit all the time and normally talks.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, but
no, you might actually be answering a question he really didn't actually mean. But go ahead.
It is an interesting thought to do, like breaking down the words, right? So if you break down Kabbalah in that way, Ka, Ba, and La, in this case he went Allah, but I'm going to stop at the La, which is the word that is actually there. You can see how it was being used already in Egypt. Again, you have the Ka, which is they had the soul partitioned in 9 parts. So the Ka was one of the parts, the Ba was another part. The Ka would be like the physical body, okay? The ba would be the digital body, the astral body. And then you can say the la is the elevation. Again, the alchemy, or the L, the L, where you have in the Jewish text and so on, you have this elevation. So again, it's the elevation of both the bodies. So in this way, you can see Kabbalah as the technology of the body, of the soul. So that's a very Kabbalistic thing to do, like breaking down words, getting your name, for example, breaking it down, changing stuff around. That's a very interesting thing to do. I wouldn't relate it necessarily with one of the spheres we were talking about here, but it would be, I guess, it's a very hard thing to do. Maybe that, because you're seeing what's not there. So in a way, it's a very Daath practice. Like, you're going to not only what's being shown to you, like the name, the pure name, but what's hidden there. Like, again, what you're not seeing from the shadow of its name. So that's even if it was a comedy comment, it was a very interesting practice.
I even know, like, people that, especially back in the day, and I've even, people that were associated with the OTO back in the day, they were into Kabbalah, but also you'd see at times they were influenced by kind of Islamic stuff. And I always do wonder if they're, I don't know. I wonder about a lot of older alchemists, or a lot of older alchemy actually kind of sprung up over in those areas to begin with, or at least I think in paper, in written document stuff. So I do, wonder about, that whole, like, if that stuff even does kind of fit into Kabbalah. People don't even realize it.
Yeah, the way I see it. Go on, Jin. Sorry.
No, sorry. I apologize, Matt. Please answer.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, personally, I see as everyone has their own part in the tree. So it's not like, the Jays are gonna say, no, it's our thing, it's our thing. It's like, okay, bros, it can be part your thing, but there's definitely other people talking about it as well in other ways. Like I was saying, the yin yang and so on. So sure, like the Sufi stuff, also there's a lot of stuff there. Like, everyone was kind of talking about it. There's no way not to talk about it. If you understand it is the thing creating the simulator itself, again, the technology of our own beings, there's no such way as not talking about it. That's the thing. You're always talking about it. You cannot unsee.
So what you said, Matt, was so interesting about the sort of Hod Daath connection, you could say. So the image that the last one, I'm sorry, Nick, the one I just added, he is the image of what we would say, quote unquote, Hod. So that kind of like, it's knowledge, but it's not quite in fullness. He's peaceful. But he actually is also that one that has the ox's face or the bison's head. They're the same deity. He's just depicted in one way or the other because he's non-dual. It can be peaceful, it can be wrathful. So, and it is interesting, his colors, because his colors can also be said to be very Hod-like. So, I just think it's interesting that you make that connection, because I have too. And it sometimes is hard to even discern what the difference between like Hod-like thinking and like true knowledge, Daath thinking is, because we're dualistic beings, and we tend to be discursive and tend to think of things in that schizophrenic kind of world. And especially because we do all use social media now, and that makes us even, it fractalizes us even more. So I think Daath is an interesting Sephira going forward in the future, because I think we're reforging it, or at least, these technocratic forces are reforging it in a way. So we'll have to see how, we'll have to see what happens in the future. But I also like that you said, Matt, about the aeonic idea. And I think, like, Nick and I have talked about this many times before. And it's like, yeah, there is an aeonic idea, and it is shifting into that kind of fourth world air quality if you want to call it age of Aquarius. I use a different framing, but it's interesting to think about Kabbalah in that context, like that we're doing this even right now, like in this exact moment, like people are listening to us, the three of us, have a conversation about things that are quote unquote occult, evil, like, the Jays did it to mind control humanity, like all of those things. It's like it's like breaking the kipa almost. Even if people think it's bullshit, it's okay. But I just think it's really interesting.
Well said, sir.
Indeed. And may I ask, Jin, what's the color of your shirt right now? Is it by any
It's
chance? It's black.
It's black, of course.
He's not
Okay, no,
wearing
if it was white, it would be interesting because it would be the three things, the black, the white, and the stripped.
I'm wearing white.
But
I'm
yeah.
wearing white shorts. So
Okay,
well,
that
they're not
counts.
really
Oh,
white.
jeez.
They're kind of yeah. They're heather gray.
that counts.
Nice. All right. Again, I really don't have much to say on this sphere, unfortunately. I mean, I don't know if you guys have any more, or we could just wrap it up there and actually keep it at a normal episode length. It's up to you.
I'll add one more thing really quick. So the Kabbalah, I thought was really interesting from like a tantric aeonic perspective, because you could say like Ka as in Kali or Kala as in time. You could say Ba as in Bhairava, or the ferocious nature of things as they appear. And you could also say La as in Lalita, as in love as the cause of knowledge. So some really interesting, I think, correlations, maybe just interesting parallels, syncretisms. Who knows? You have to discern for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting. I'd say maybe about Daath. There's nothing exactly here more that I wanted to bring. At least nothing comes to mind. There was a nice comment here about William saying like magic, quote unquote, bringing imagination into reality.
Oh yeah.
Again, the way I understand the soul. So again, when we talk soul, I understand it as imagination itself. So like my example of reality being this frame by frame thing. So the soul is the one pulling the frame. It's like saying, okay, what do I imagine right now? Oh, I'll imagine myself being rich, whatever. Okay, boom, that's what happens. I imagine myself being sick. Okay, that's what's going to happen. And it feels like more and more with the years, things are going on faster. So the more like, I don't know if it's personally because I know I'm doing all this practices and whatever, but I see also with other people close to me that don't necessarily practice this kind of stuff. And that's what's happening. Like the more, the clearer the imagination, again, shouldn't be a kipa, it should be pure with light. The clearer it is, the faster it comes and the better it comes. Because it is really down, like to me, my understanding Kabbalah is this. It's like the understanding of your soul, the understanding of how can you interact with the simulator, which is like your own body. Your own body is the thing you're simulating. It's through it you are simulating everything. You are experiencing life. So the more you can understand how it works, the better. And I talked about this in Jin's episode as well, but I always try to bring it on because, maybe you may be feared. You may have fear, of the occult or whatever, or you may feel like, oh, it's too much to study, whatever it is, right? But if you at least try to do something, whatever it is, but do it well, you're going to be touching Kabbalah or, higher spheres and so on. Just, try your best to do one thing and that's it. You don't need to, if you don't want to study, all the crazy occult things, go to, strange places and so on, meet some strange people. It doesn't matter. Just go and do one thing the best you can because you're gonna reach those levels. It doesn't matter. Eventually you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna have to work also this quote unquote occult that you have to ask. It is occult to whom, really? Like maybe to you, but to people studying, it's not occult at all. It's very clear, actually. That's a practice to make it clear. But if you take anything to study, and what I mean anything, literally anything, like it could be, playing a sport, cooking, whatever it is, working on something. But when you do it intentionally and in the present moment, you are there. You are, understanding how reality works. That's the main practice, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be intimidated by wisdom science. Embrace wisdom science because it's really important and it will de-occult things right before your eyes. And also, you're not going to understand it right away. And that's okay. That's totally normal. But you should try because, like Matt said, Kabbalah's in everything. Like Nick said, it's like you can't really see. It's both. It works both ways. It's in everything, and you can understand at least what we can sort of perceive on this level of consciousness. You can relate them all to the tree, and so it's a really useful tool. It's a really useful tool for many things, not just magic, but maybe magic's also in your mind. So maybe just even the act of thinking is in a way magical.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to make money, everyone uses Kabbalah. If you want to be famous, everyone uses Kabbalah. If you want to be healthy, it's whatever, man. You gotta use it, even if you don't understand what you're doing. It's the same buttons. So either you use them without understanding, or you understand them and then you use it easily. So you cannot unsee it after you start seeing it. And if your system maybe doesn't relate everything in a way, also that shows maybe that you should adapt your system or you should enhance it. I would say that's one thing as well. Again, don't be fixed. We've been talking about this in this podcast a lot. Don't be fixed in the ideas. Try it out. Even if you don't necessarily agree, think to yourself, why don't you agree? See, do you really not agree, or is it like a paradigm from before? And break all those cliffs.
It's a logic proof. Sorry, Nick.
No, go.
It's a logic proof. That's how you have to think of Kabbalah. It's a logic proof. And like Matt said, like one of the most important things actually is that you should be able to test your logic, your Kabbalistic logic, against how to work with the tree and how other people understand it. So I think that's a really useful, maybe the most useful tool. I wish when I was 22, I know Matt's 23, I'm gonna use the magic number, but I wish when I was 22, someone had told me that. So
yeah, like Will Williams even saying you cannot speak without prophesizing. I think a lot of that's what politicians are doing. What they want, they just say shit to get us to do it. Whatever, they use us.
Yeah, most definitely.
That's how someone said take like imagination or whatever in your thoughts and put it into turn it into form. I think that's exactly what politicians use us to do. Their imagination comes out verbally, and then we react certain ways to give them the opportunity to do what they want, or create what they want. I guess unless you guys are good, I think we could wrap it up here. It's an hour and a half, perfect. We purposely picked 8/8 today because of the number. I don't know when the next one will be, and plus I have to make sure it works for Matt as well. But I'm assuming with the next few weeks or some shit, we'll be able to do the next 2 spheres. Maybe we'll keep it like that, just do 2 spheres at a time. We'll see what happens. Thank you again, Matt. I really appreciate it. Before I wrap it up, do you want to mention tonight we are going live again with the Awakened podcast? Come check that out. There'll be a bunch of the rejects with us tonight, and then tomorrow got a real packed day for lives. Be interesting to see who still shows up on the last one. In the morning, fingers crossed. I've gotten the okay from this guy. I've already sent him the link. He knows I made it live and everything. Ashton Forbes supposed to be coming on the Occult Rejects tomorrow, 11 o'clock in the morning. We got that going on, and then we do have Thomas Sheridan, another banger of a guest. We had him on one other time. Awesome. He's coming on to talk about Druid Mounds. And then at night, the Occult Rejects themselves will be covering hand symbolism. So definitely check that out. But yeah, keep an eye out for that live tomorrow morning. It should be impressive if he shows up. Fingers crossed. But yeah, Jin, please let everybody know where they can find all your amazing stuff and what you're doing tonight. Please.
Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate it. Obviously, talking Kabbalah is perennial discussion. I can have it every day. And thank you, obviously, to Brother Matt. And Matt is an incredible sort of. I don't want to categorize him or label him, but he's an incredible magician in his own way and in his own right. So everybody should follow Matt. But if you're interested in following me and hearing Matt and I in dialogue, you can do that at Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn, or at Threshold Saints, which is both the show account on X, Twitter, and also IG. Matt's episode has dropped. Ashley's was just earlier this week. Think, Change, Repeat, and Toby Chappell's dropping tomorrow, the 9th. And then tonight, yes, we have Friday Night Gnostic Mass. I can't remember what I titled it. Eat, Drink, Nectar, Meat, I think, as a little play on Wrathful Offerings, Cakes of Light, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, that almost kind of makes me think of Cakes of Light.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an interrelationship, Nick.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what nectar is. Like, I mean, it's that stuff. So, I mean, there's a relationship. So, yeah, it's just a wordplay on the Ang Lee film. But I think it'll be fun. It's going to be a free range. We're going to continue Aetherpunk, but I wasn't quite ready with all the scheduling and all the bookings I have. So we're gonna hear Solar, Matt, Monty, Joseph, Mike, and the Branch, and they're just gonna go hard. And I'm gonna moderate it the best I can like I always do. And thank you guys so much. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you to the chat. I couldn't even keep up because I was trying to think of things and like listen, and it was a lot going on. But thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it, Matt, and really appreciate it, Nick. Thank you.
Hell yeah, no, of course. Thank you. I always appreciate when you can make it on with us, man. And like I said, I could talk Kabbalah with you all day. So I mean, and there's going to be, you know, how many more spheres we're going to be talking about. So it should definitely be interesting and fun. Matt, please let everybody know. Well, first off, again, thank you so much for coming on, man. You're definitely going to bring a really awesome part to this series. I appreciate you doing this. Can you please let everybody know where they can find all your stuff? And when you're done, please send me links that I can share and put in the show notes. I forgot to add them.
Yes, for sure. So first of all, thank you, obviously, for calling up. And thanks, Jin, for the bridge. It's always a good time to talk about those things, which I love the most, I would say, right now. And yeah, I mean, it was a great episode. I'm glad we can do this more. I'm Matt Mora. You can find me on X, Instagram, YouTube, always at MattMora19. I just sent a comment in the YouTube chat. You can also go to my website. It's Kabbalah.com. That's KAABAHLAH.com. Sorry, KAABALAH.com. Very simple. I sent it in the chat as well. There's a lot of like small apps here and there, things that you can do. Most importantly, you know, again, if you like this kind of content, make sure to follow us, see us, listen to us, but also to do your own work. That's what you're here to do, you know?
Yes.
Your own work. So yeah, thanks a lot, everyone in the comments. You were great. Very nice. I also couldn't keep up all the time here, but yeah, saw some good stuff. And it doesn't happen without you guys in the chat, right? It's all a synthesis here of everyone. So thanks a lot.
No, thank you. And I think, you know, a really good way, not to get cheesy with it, you know, you said got to do your own work. I really think to even end it with Daath, when you do your own work, you have your own experience, which in my opinion is what gives you true knowledge. So
Indeed.
Exactly what he said. Do your own work and have your own experience. Thank you again. I really, really appreciate it. Both of you to you know, do this series with me, and everybody in the chat. I mean, that's what was up. There was a lot of great stuff in there. A lot of just wondering and thinking and comments and questions. It was awesome. I really appreciate it. I'm glad it's going as well. Yeah, and that is the end of this one. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.